Hello and welcome to my block one of the Beautiful Things quilt along. Really quick, I want to go through a couple of things. I've had a lot of people reach out and have asked questions about how a quilt along works, so bear with me if this isn't your first rodeo. But this is how it's going to go. Is every 2 weeks I'm going to drop a blog post that's going to go through, and it will have all of the instructions, and it will have all of your like cutting guides for that block. So this week's block is block one, and it is beautiful. And so we'll go through, I will post my YouTube video and it will be linked to the blog. If you're signed up on my email newsletter, you'll also receive a reminder there so that you won't forget. So you'll have 2 weeks to complete block one. So today is October 13th. You'll have until October 26th to finish block one before I drop block two on the blog. And there's no like punishment for not finishing block one. But if you finish and if you post to Instagram, and my baby is crying in the background, but I'll be right back. We're gonna have lots of interruptions going on because this is my life. Okay, so if you post to Instagram with your previous week's block, so you have from now, today, October 13th until Monday, October 26th. So you have 1 day short of a 1 or 2 week period, sorry. Then if you post to Instagram, and make sure to tag me so that I can see it, with your finished block, then you'll automatically receive a prize, and then you'll also be entered to win a giveaway. And I will be announcing that the Monday before the next block drops. So block two will drop on Tuesday, October 27th. So I'll be announcing a giveaway winner on Monday, October 26th. And if you finished the block on Monday, October 26th, then you automatically get a prize. So the prizes are going to be things like coupons to online quilt shops. It's going to be like free patterns, and you're going to receive those via email. So you need to make sure to tag me on Instagram so that I can get your email and we can get the prize sent your way, because it doesn't matter if you're like chosen, someone's going to win the giveaway. But if you finish the previous week's block, you will get a prize. So make sure to do that. Make sure to post that on Instagram, because that will, you'll be happy. Oh, and the quilt behind me is not the Beautiful Things quilt, because I'm going to be making it along with you guys, the Beautiful Things quilt. This is my All Good Things, our Wild and Free quilt. Anyway, so I'm going to be making the Beautiful Things quilt with you, and so I don't have a sample of it yet, but I'll be posting pictures and you'll see it in the video as I go. So first order of business, the cutting guides. So this is going to be the first thing that you print off, and it's going to ensure that you don't miscut your fabric. So it's going to tell you the SKU, and you can substitute whatever you want here. This is the fabric that I'm using, which is the Andover Fabrics Rainbow Shimmer line. And it tells you the width that I specify in the pattern, which you may not need that amount. Like for example, this apple shimmer fabric calls for a fat quarter. Technically you don't need that much, but that's the smallest cut you can usually get like at a quilt shop. So that's what I went with. And it's going to show you kind of the width that you need for the applique, and then the width of all of the pieces that you use throughout the entire quilt. So this is not just for block one, this is going to be for the whole quilt. And then there's a back side to that, and then there's another one here. There are a couple of SKUs in the cutting guide that are that are missing, and those are the Blizzard Shimmer, and then there's a couple of other ones that just have applique in them. So the main reason that I created this cutting guide is because I don't want you guys to do the applique first and then not have enough for the piecing, or vice versa. So that just kind of will give you an idea of, I mean, there's some big applique pieces in this. So make sure to print this off. And then if you're watching my YouTube videos, I'm going to be showing you every step of my process. And so you don't have to stress out about, am I going to be cutting my fabric wrong? Because I'm going to show you exactly what I do. If you ordered a kit that has the fabric in it with the laser cut pieces from FlexiFuse, I will be showing you what I'm doing as if I had the kit. I don't have the kit, but I'm going to be showing you as if I did. So that's that. And if you guys have any questions about anything that I have not answered here, be sure to drop it in the comments, or you can also visit my Instagram page, drop questions there, email me, however you want to, however you feel comfortable with. I want to make sure that you guys are set up for success with this, that you feel like it's something you can accomplish and that it's exciting, because that's how quilting should be. So let's jump right in, and I'm going to show you guys how I cut, some of my favorite notions throughout each block, and then I will show you the applique stitching and adhering it to my fabric, give you some tips there, and then you'll see the full assembly of the block so that it's ready to roll. So I'm excited to get started. Let's go. On my block 1 instructions, it talks about Blizzard Shimmer. You're not going to find Blizzard Shimmer in the cutting guide because almost all it uses so much of the Blizzard Shimmer. And here it is. It's the white with the metallic. It uses so much of the Blizzard Shimmer that almost all of the cuts are with the fabric pieces. So this is what you're going to be getting in the kit too if you ordered the kit. I have a 15-inch by width the fabric piece, and then I also have an 11-inch by width the fabric piece, and this is a little bit more than you need. You're going to be cutting it down and subcutting the 11-inch by width the fabric piece. The 15-inch by width the fabric piece is going to be the background for my applique. So I'm just going to leave it alone because I won't need it until closer to the end of block 1 instructions. Okay, so the Citron Shimmer on block 1, I'm going to need 2 4.5-inch squares. And if I correlate this with my cutting guide, I'm going to look on this and see the Citron Shimmer on my cutting guide. And it shows me how to cut this so that I'm not cutting incorrectly, because this includes all 6 of the blocks. Because if I cut this incorrectly, then you might end up having to buy more yardage than you needed. So I have 1/2 yard of Citron Shimmer here. I'm going to cut, let's see, 8 inches off, because that's what I'm going to need for my piecing. This right here is FlexiFuse's pre-printed applique templates. And so what they've done is they've printed all of my applique templates straight on the fusible, and this is super nice. I am way thrilled that I'm not going to have to trace anything. If I can get this off. Okay. So it's going to come with an instruction sheet. And I believe that these are back ordered right now. And so you can go try to order one if you haven't already. But it has these instructions right here. If you haven't used fusible before, or if you're kind of worried about it, I'm still going to go through all the steps with you guys, but I am not right here. I'm not going to be tracing anything because, again, everything's already printed and reversed onto here for me. So I'm really excited about that. So I can just start ironing and then cutting my templates out and then ironing them down onto my background. So I'm just going to pull this open so that you guys can see it. And these are going to be grouped by color, so I'm going to need to find the color that I need. And I'm guessing that it's going to be farther down on this. Okay, there's my Citron shimmer. And it's grouped by the SKU, and the SKU is also on the fabric guide, so you can cross-reference everything. It's probably just easier for them to write the SKU instead of, ooh, we're going down the line here. Okay, so there's two parts to it. So your templates for block 1 are going to actually be on the part 2 of the rollout here. Okay, here we go. So here is my beautiful, and it's 9553-MT1. So I'm going to go ahead and, so for the sake of just saving, for saving fabric, I am just going to iron this all down at once, even though I'm not going to be obviously using this piece yet. That's going to be actually my block 6. But you'll save fabric if you just iron it all at once, even if you don't want to cut it all at once. And I would recommend doing the same for tracing. If you trace all of your templates at once, I know it creates a little bit more work at the very front of the block, and it's totally up to you, but you will probably end up using more fabric if you don't trace all of your templates at once. So, just a heads up there. And then I need to find my shadow on here too. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way so I don't cut into it. Those are going to be my teal. And then here is my gray, my graphite shimmer. And I'm just going to iron this all down at once as well. These are all of my Caribbean shimmer templates. And this, you can feel, this is going to be kind of a beginner tip, but right here you can feel the glue side on this. And this is the paper side. This is the side that's been printed on. So you're going to be fusing the wrong side of your fabric onto this glue so that the templates are reversed and you will see your fabric side up piece right here. And when you peel that paper off, you'll have glue on the other side that you can put onto your background. So if you've worked with fusible before, you know that, but I just thought I'd throw that in there so that there's not any confusion about it. And feel free to email me or message me with any questions that you have. So I'm going to go iron these down since you're not going to see that step. And then I will show you guys how we assemble our star block. Okay, so I now have my Beautiful Things templates ironed down onto here, and I hope that you can see this. I kind of put my design wall behind me so that I can hopefully show you. Okay, so these templates, you can see that this is the printed side, and now I've ironed this. This is supposed to be my Caribbean shimmer, but I did find a variegated print that I wanted to use for the lettering, for the top lettering. So I went ahead and used that. And you can see that this has all of my templates. So it has all of the blocks on it, but I'm only going to cut out what I need. So I just need my lettering today. So I'm just going to cut out my letters. And you can see that this is the printed side, and this is my fabric side. So again, your glue side is going to be going down right here. Okay. And then for the sake of this being the first block, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to, how I trace my templates and cut them out and everything, just so that you have a better idea of how that goes. Okay, so I have my pre-printed templates here, but I'm going to show you how I trace these if you're just using like regular fusible sheets, or there's rolls. So FlexiFuse has sheet packs that are 8 by 10.5 inch sheets, or they also have 21-inch wide rolls that are 3 yards long, which are perfect for some of these big pieces. But I know a lot of you guys are going to probably be using sheets, so I'm going to just show you how to do that. You're not going to get as much output from using the sheets as you are like with the templates, with the pre-printed ones. And you can use pencil or pen or Sharpie, really whatever you want to use on FlexiFuse. That's not always the case with all fusible brands. So just so that you guys can see it really well on the camera, I'm going to go ahead and use a Sharpie. So I'm just going to be tracing all of these templates. The nice thing about the pre-printed too is it's more accurate because it's the exact line that I drew in my design software. But these definitely work if you already have something in stock. So look at me using business verbiage at your house, in your sewing room, not in stock. So I'm just going to go through and trace all of these. Again, if you are printing the pattern off and don't already have these templates, or you haven't purchased the laser cut kit, you are going to need to tape the sheets together. And those sheets are, the sheets are marked. My pattern is marked so that you can tape everything together really easily. You may have to trim off some of the the 1/4 inch gap around the edge of the paper so that you're able to line it up correctly, but it shouldn't be too much trouble. There are some pieces that are really big which are not actually on the first block, so you shouldn't have to stress about the first block, I don't think. But when we get to some of these big ones like this one or the bird later on, then those ones I think have quite a few pages that have to be taped together. But I'm just going to go through and finish this so you guys can see this, and then I'll cut them out so that you can see that, and then I'll show you how I'm ironing it onto the background. So I did not make the most necessarily of some of my fusible, but I can cut these off and use them for scraps for later. That's what I like to do. Like this one has quite a bit of wastage, but I didn't want it to have to separate it out into 2 different pieces. So I can just cut those off and save them for later. And I'm going to wait to trace the one for now. That goes on, I think it's block 4, block 3. Yeah, block 3. And that one's going to take 2 sheets of paper. So I'll show you how to do that later. But now I'm going to go ahead and cut these templates out. And you'll notice that it's backwards. So like this B is backwards right now. But when I cut these out, that they're going to, they're going to be ironed down to that fabric. And then when you flip it over, it's going to be the right way. So really quick, I'm not going to cut them out all the way yet. All I'm going to do is trim around them, giving them a little bit of space. And again, I can save this for later. And the reason I'm trimming around them is so that I can optimize my fabric usage. Because if I lay this entire sheet down on my fabric, it's going to take up a lot more room than this is. So then I can nest them together and decide how they'll best fit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of the ones that I need for this block. So I'm not going to need this piece or the butterfly. I'm going to set those off to the side. I already traced them. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut these apart too, because I don't need this oval piece yet either. And if you're going to be doing this with all of the blocks, on the rest of them, I'm going to be using this pre-printed fusible. And so if you're going to be doing all of your blocks like this, tracing them, and then cutting them out yourself, I would write in pen or pencil off to the side or just in the middle of it what fabric that goes to, so that you're not losing track of all of your pieces. Okay, so I need this U. Can save that piece. And I don't know why I just cut that out, but it might make it easier to nest on your fabric. Okay, and I'm not going to need this piece either, so I'm going to cut it off. Okay. So I have that. My pile of extra fusible, and here are my templates. Okay, so before I cut these out, I'm going to go nest them on my fabric and lay them out so that it utilizes my fabric space well. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this well enough. See how I can nest them like that, and I'm using a lot less yardage than I would if those were full sheets. Okay. I think that has all my templates. B, E, A, U, T, I, F, U, L. Okay, beautiful. And this one I'm not going to need, I don't think, until later either. This is one of the pieces of my scissors. So I'm actually going to go ahead and cut it off so that I don't get him confused for this block. Okay, so I'm going to go take this over to the ironing board. I'm going to iron it. I forgot to mention the iron settings to you guys earlier when I showed you the previous teal one. you're going to want high settings on your iron. So probably cotton or linen, I use almost to the highest setting every time. And I use no steam when I'm doing using the fusible. You can use steam technically. I've tried it with it, but FlexiFuse, on the back of their instructions, it says no steam. So I'm going to glue each of these in place for, their instructions say 5 to 8 seconds, but that's kind of like the minimum. I would recommend more like 10 to 15 seconds, especially because I tend to count fast when I'm ironing these down. So, I'll go over it usually a couple of times. When I'm ironing big, like if you have big pieces, you're gonna want, like if you're gonna be using this pre-printed, make sure that you start on one side when you're ironing and go to the other side methodically, because if you like go around the edges and then try to do the middle, you're gonna end up with some bubbling, if there was any space, because the glue shrinks kind of down to the fabric. So just make sure that you go across it and not around the edges and then into the middle, so that you don't have buckling, which the buckling isn't the biggest deal. It just means you have a little bit extra fusible in one spot, but yes. So I'm going to go ahead and go do that, and then I'll cut these out. Okay, so I have ironed these down, and now I'm just going to cut them out. I do prefer microtip scissors for these, but you are cutting with paper, so you're probably not going to want to use like your nice scissors, like your Gingers on this. These are going to do just fine for what my application is, but that's totally up to you. So I'll just go ahead and cut these out really quick, and then we'll get into assembling the block.
I can't forget the day we met. Your eyes so blue, me piercing through. I can't forget the day we met. Your smile so bright, it made me swoon. Our love is like a summer's day, hot and endless in a magic way. Whenever I see you, all I can think is my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. My summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. I can't forget the day we met. You looked so fly in your red Corvette. Your hair, your look, your everything. When I see it all, I knew that you were mine. I'm in love with your hair, your lips, your silhouette in the moonlight shine. With my love you won't ever be alone, my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. Completely a fool. Been waiting for you, my love. Head over heels, I'm blinded by what I feel. My love is forever yours.
I'm ready to start sewing. So I printed off this Maddie Loves HSTs, half square triangles. So I don't know about you, but I struggle to get my half square triangles to line up if I do it the traditional way. If you're super accurate and you don't want to use this, that is totally your choice. I love this because I can just literally sew on the line down here where the arrows are, and then I cut on the solid lines, and it saves me a whole bunch of time, and I can make 12 half square triangles at a time, and it's super fast. So I'm gonna attempt to show you guys what I'm doing as I'm doing it ish. So I'm gonna take my 6x9 Wasabi shimmer and my 6x9 Blizzard shimmer, and I'm going to line them up so that the fabric is facing itself, so the right sides are together. just like you would normally. And then, oh, and one thing I did forget to mention is there's this little 1-inch measuring spot on the page. You do need to make sure that this is exactly 1 inch. So when you're printing it, and the same goes for your templates too, for your applique templates. When you're printing them, you need to make sure that it is to scale. So sometimes you have to adjust your printer settings a little bit and make sure that it is not adjusting the size as you're printing them. Okay, so I have my right sides of my fabric lined up together, and then I'm just going to put this over top of this, and I'm going to make sure there is a buffer here. So you have more than you need. And these will be 2-inch finished half square triangles. Okay, so I'm gonna start right here on the start line. I'm just gonna start sewing beyond it. And I'm just gonna make sure literally that I'm like sewing on the line. Alright, and I'm at the finish. I can just go off of the edge there so that I'm not cutting too close to my seams. Right here, I just go off the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this apart while you guys watch, and you can see how fun it is. Alright, so I'm going to cut this apart. And I just want a straight ruler to make sure, unless you're feeling edgy, pun intended. So make sure that you're cutting on the solid lines, and it doesn't matter in what order you cut them. You're just going to be cutting them apart. I like to make sure I have like that full I need a new blade. Okay. And there are more efficient ways to do this here than I'm doing, but obviously I wasn't thinking because I'm on camera. But that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to trim those up at the end. I'm just going to finish cutting these apart. Okay, I'm going to show you guys one of these before we get any further. So let me trim this off, and then it will be to size. And I should have, let's see. If you print this on like a lighter weight paper, that is better because you are going to have to pull it out and you don't want to damage the seams at all. But it's so nice because there you have a unit. You can just trim the dog tails off. And you're ready to roll. When I pull these out, I like to kind of score this because then it rips a little bit better out instead of damaging your seams like that. And then this one too. If you fold it back like that, it comes out really easily, and then you're not going to damage any of your seams there. And it is easier to get the little dogtails off while the paper's in. But then I can just fold that and I have a half square triangle unit done. So I'm going to finish cutting these apart, and then I am going to take my papers out, and then I'm going to make one more set of these. So you're going to need to print a total of 2 of these half square triangle pages, so that, and you're going to end up with a few extra half square triangle units, but it'll be nice because then you can use them for something else. And you won't have to make each of these units individually. So those are my thoughts. I'm going to finish doing this really quick. You guys don't have to watch me do every little step of it, because I think you've got the hint on how it works. And then I will be showing you next how to do the applique. Okay, something that I forgot to mention. When you are cutting your half square triangles that you just paper pieced onto this piece of paper, there's these lines that I've created on here. So let me see if I can line it up to show you. See that little teal line? That's your dog ear mark. And so you can just trim it off right there, and you don't have to fuss with it after you have already pulled the paper out. Just go ahead and cut that off, and then you can pull the paper out and iron it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll show you. So I've trimmed those off on the line, and when I iron this open, it's not going to fully open until I get this paper out, but that has taken my dog ears off, and I don't have to do anything with it after I pull that paper out. So, okay, I'm going to show you guys how one of these star blocks is going to get laid out, and then I'll show you how to put one together on your machine. So, you're going to have 2 half square triangles like this. On each side. And then you're going to have these in each of the corners. Okay, so you're going to end up with the amount, if you used my method, you're going to end up with 24 of these half square triangles. You're only going to need 8 per star block, so you're going to only need 16, so you'll have an extra 8 of them. But you are just going to sew these in rows. So you're going to want to sew these all together in a row. And then you're going to want to sew these together and these units together. And then you're going to piece these together. And then you're going to add these on at the end. So I don't know if that made any sense. But I will show you on my machine how I do it. And then you're just going to make 2 of these units in a row. So that you can add them onto your applique block at the end. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so one thing I did forget to mention is I normally press toward the dark side of the fabric, but when you're doing these half square triangles with the star, you need to press one of them, half of them toward the light side, half of them toward the dark side, so that when you're sewing them together, they nest like this. It's just a lot nicer when you're doing a seam. So that way it lays flat and you don't have like the bump in the, right there where you're first starting it. See how that lays nice and flat, and the seams, the corner matches up right there at the 1/4 inch mark. So I'm going to go iron that. It doesn't matter which way on this case because my center square is that entire piece right there. But I'm just going to keep building this. Okay, and I'm going to do that on this other one. You're going to want to do it at all of those points. Okay. Oh my heck. And I just sewed it wrong. Backwards. Special. Rookie mistake. It's okay. Just because you make the mistake doesn't mean you're a rookie. I get going too fast sometimes. All right, let's try that again. We're going like this. And it will still nest that way. That's why I got confused as I nested the two and then, but you're wanting to sew the two whites together. Okay. There we go. That's more like it. Okay. I'm going to go iron this. Okay. And now I'm ready to attach both sides of this to the top and bottom of my 4.5 inch square. Okay. I got caught on my foot there. All right. Okay, so that matches up nicely, and so does that. If you're not sure if this is going to be matching up nicely right there on the corner, oh, you're not even seeing it. Okay, if you're not sure if it's going to match up nicely right here on the corner, you can always stick a pin right there where you want it to meet, and then right as you're going through with your machine, you can pull that pin out, and it can kind of show you where you need to be. I'm going to go iron this, and then I'm ready to finish assembling my first star block. Okay, so here's my finished star block. It has the 8 half square triangles in it, and then there's 4 2.5 inch, or well, they're 2 inch finished squares. So I'm going to make one more of these, and then I'm going to add my top piece to it before I do my applique block. Okay, so I'm ready to start my applique. This is my favorite part of the process. I'm going to show you guys how to do it without a layout guide. If you ordered the kit, then you have a layout guide, and you can use a light box, and you can, and I'll show you that in later blocks. For this block, I'm just going to show you how to do it without one. Most of the blocks are simple enough that you shouldn't need a layout guide, or except for block 2, which I will be posting one that you can print in multiple pages. But here, let's get started on this applique block. I'm just going to trim up my 14.5-inch wide, or I guess if you got it in the kit, it's going to be a 15-inch wide piece. I'm going to do it from this other side. Here we go. Okay. This is going to need to be bigger than 43 inches wide. It's kind of unwieldy. We're going to do the best we can with it. Okay, and I want my applique to be 1.5 inches from the bottom of the block. That is, you don't have to calculate anything there. That includes the seam allowances. So I'm going to measure with a tool and just, I'm going to start laying out my, if I can find the B, here we go. Okay, I'm going to start laying out my graphite shimmer pieces. And then I'm just going to make sure that I space all my pieces evenly. Okay, so I laid this out. It's 1.5 inches from the bottom, and I've trimmed off my selvages. I have exactly 43 inches, and my applique, there's the same amount of blank space on each side. So I have about, let's see, 5 inches on each side. Almost exactly. Okay, so I could iron this down. I think though I'm gonna go ahead and just put down my Caribbean shimmer on top of it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to offset this just slightly so you see the shadow underneath it. Okay, so I have all of these laid out, and now the trick is to get them actually ironed in place. And I'm going to show you guys, I didn't do this on top of the ironing board because I wanted to measure it, but I'm going to use this Caterpillar tempered glass, and I'm going to just try to slip it underneath it and then iron on top of it. I love Caterpillar products. These are designed to be used on top of a light box, which they're also great for. But it's perfect because you can iron on top of them. So we'll probably do that with some of the applique a little bit later. later on in one of the blocks. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and slip this underneath. And it's going beautifully. It's like not moving my pieces at all. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my iron. And I have it set to no steam again. Okay, and I'm just going to hold it in place for 10 seconds, about 10 seconds. I tend to count fast, so sometimes I let myself go to 15 because then I'm sure that it adhered, which I think this is still warming up, so I may have to go back over it again because it needs to be to temperature. So I'm just going to go ahead and get all of these done, and then I will show you how I stitch mine down, and then we'll go ahead and assemble this. So I'm going to applique this down. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that really quick. I'm going to use this Aurifil 50 weight, and it is my favorite for doing applique. And I think this specific color is 4182, but I matched it more to the color that I chose instead of the Caribbean Shimmer fabric. So I'm just going to thread my machine. You know those, the fancy machine threaders? You guys, I legit cannot use them. I'm broken. But I can get it through the needle almost every time by eye just fine. I just cannot figure out. And every time I think that I know how, it doesn't work for me. I think they hate me. Okay. So some people like to match the bottom bobbin thread for the applique. I don't worry about it, and I know that's really lazy of me. I just I turn my tension down so it pulls more toward the back so you don't see the white. So that's just my preference. If you want to be good, then don't do that. Okay, couple notes. Here, I'm going to turn it so you can see my machine. So you're going to want to use an applique foot. It's a wide foot. And then you're going to need a double hole plate. You're not going to want the single hole plate because you're not going to be able to, it will break your needle. Okay, so I'm going to set this for a buttonhole stitch. And that's just my preference. And then you can toy with the settings for that. I like it to be a little bit wider, especially because you're going to be covering a lot of area on this. And I like to set it all the way to the right so I can see where my stitch is going to go in. So I'm about to start sewing down my applique pieces, but I wanted to show you guys really quick this Flex Light by Caterpillar. It is amazing, especially if you're working in a lower light environment. I have like my whole area is backlit. I'm actually in my mother-in-law's sewing room. So I'm going to show you guys this, but it's awesome. Okay, so it has like this little Velcro that attaches to your machine. And then you can stick it on there, and then you can have like more of these little holders that you use on other machines so that you only have to get one light. And then you can move, so that's why it's called the Flex Light, is you can move it around, and it has different light settings that are awesome, so I can see exactly where my stitches are going when I start this applique. So anyway, this is one of my favorite things for when I'm doing applique. And I'm gonna show you guys my buttonhole stitch. I went ahead and already lined everything up here. Okay, sorry, I'm not trying to make anyone sick, I'm just trying to. So you start to get if you haven't done buttonhole stitch before, you start to get kind of a rhythm to it. You can hear the rhythm. It goes dun, dun, over, back, stitch, stitch, over, back. At least that's what it is on my machine. And so when I get to a corner, I can show you guys what I do. Try to go a little faster here, so you're not just sitting here watching it. Go in a straight line. Again, I'm using Aurifil 50 weight cotton thread. It's my favorite for stitching down applique. It doesn't like fray as badly as other threads seem to do. Okay, so I have a couple of options, and I'm sorry if you can't see this too well. When I get to the corner, I can try to do a diagonal stitch in the corner, or I can also just skip a stitch. So I'm going to show you guys just the diagonal. I just tilted it slightly. And I have my machine settings so that it goes down and then stays down. The needle, sorry. And these pieces are nice and big. When we get to block 2, there's going to be smaller pieces, and I can show you guys some tips for what I do there. In fact, on some of the smaller pieces, it's just easier to do. I'm sorry, this is out of focus here because of this little Flex Light, which is amazing, but here we go. And I'm trying to do this one-handed while I hold my phone because my camera holder doesn't have a great angle to it. So you just want to stay at a 90-degree angle. You want this piece of, you're not seeing it well, you want this piece to be at a 90-degree angle with your applique piece so that you get a nice even stitch look to it. If you're doing it like at a slant, you're gonna see that on the applique, on the stitching. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm not going to make you guys watch me do this entire block. I'm probably not even going to stitch these shadows down because they're just hanging over a little bit. If I do stitch them, I'm just going to stitch them with a straight stitch and matching thread. I always like to do matching thread because I think it looks more elegant like that. I don't know if you guys can see, but it blends nicely with the applique, and so it doesn't distract from the design of the quilt. I'm also going to stitch here on the inside of this and do the same thing around, but it will be facing the other way basically so that I can stitch it. My stitches will be going this way toward the applique. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you guys the finished product and we'll finish assembling the block. Okay guys, I now have my beautiful sewn down onto my applique block. I'm going to zoom in here so you can kind of see it. Oh, I missed a string. I'll show you guys how to pull that to the back. So you can see that I did on here a blanket stitch, and then over here I did just a straight stitch right next to the edge of the shadow. So, and it looks like I missed one right here too, so I'm gonna go back and do that. But really quick, let me show you how I pull my stitches to the back. So some people say that I am crazy for pulling my stitches to the back. And if you prefer, you can just stitch in place or back stitch or whatever. But I have this string back here, and I'm just going to come in here and I just pull my thread to the back by pulling. I just slightly tug on my bobbin and it pulls it to the back, and then I can pull that out and do a knot and then just trim it. So I attached my star blocks to the side of my applique block after I trimmed my applique block down to the correct size. You're not going to want to trim it from the lower side. You're going to want to trim it from the top, so that your applique still sits 1.5 inches from the bottom of the block. So I went ahead and trimmed it to the correct size, and then I added my star blocks on the side. Go ahead and finish it up, and then make sure you post your Beautiful Things Block 1 by Monday, October 26th, so that you can qualify for the giveaway and also win a prize. So make sure that you post to Instagram or to Facebook and tag me, and then also use the hashtags Beautiful Things QAL, quilt along, and hashtag FlexiFuse, hashtag Andover Fabrics. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks for block 2. Can't wait till then.